Now I'd like to turn the podium over to Dr. Angle to introduce our keynote speaker.
It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Joe DiPietro, President of the University of Tennessee System. Dr. DiPietro became the 25th President of the University of Tennessee on January 1, 2011. As UT System President, Dr. DiPietro is the Chief Executive Officer of a statewide university system that includes the flagship campus in Knoxville, campuses in Chattanooga and Martin, the Health Science Center in Memphis, the Space Institute in Tullahoma, and statewide institutes of agriculture and public service. The President also serves as the Chairman of the Board of Governors of the UT Battelle, which manages Oak Ridge National Laboratory for the Department of Energy, and is a member of the University of Tennessee Board of Regents. Prior to becoming president, Dr. DiPietro served as chancellor of the UT Institute of Agriculture from 2006 to 2010. Dr. DiPietro.
Thank you very much, Chancellor. It's good to be in Chattanooga. I get down here frequently in my role in working with this campus. I'd like to thank Congressman Fleshman and Congressman Jimmy Duncan for your steadfast support of the University of Tennessee. We really appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be with you today. I thought I'd focus today on partnerships in the Tennessee Valley corridor that impact our university so very, very much. And I'd tell you that it's an important gathering each year. I try to get to it every year. The calendar usually blows up, and it's sort of blown up today, but that's okay. I'm here, and that's what counts. We have a long history of being involved with the Tennessee Valley Corridor and these summits. We're very supportive of the mission it has, and it helps everyone. And in fact, I sat through the panel discussion prior to lunch, and it's very heartening to hear that interaction with the constituencies of this organization and higher education and the community colleges throughout the state. It says that's the right attitude to have. This is a partnership with you to begin with, I would tell you that, from the standpoint of every aspect of the organization and how it interacts with higher education and how we jointly partner up to advance the mission that provides you the right students trained up and ready to go to work with the right skill set, the right entrepreneurial spirit, as was mentioned frequently in that conversation, and then also discovery that makes a difference and provides solutions to people's lives. The placement of federal assets within this valley and this region positions us for advancing economic development, and we must continue to sustain and improve our federal partnerships and access to these assets, and in particular for the University of Tennessee. The asset of Oak Ridge National Lab is a powerful, powerful partnership. And in fact, I've said frequently in the first 4 years in this job that there are very few university presidents that wouldn't almost kill to have the relationship that we do, the University of Tennessee collectively, with the Oak Ridge National Lab and with Battelle, and the opportunity to co-manage and run that lab, as well as interact with it, that drives home and forwards our mission so very, very positively. You know, if you think about partnerships, I view them as a partnership is something that amplifies success and achieves more together than it does with the individual parts or the individual partners. And so this is the 14th year of our partnership with Battelle to manage Oak Ridge National Lab for the Department of Energy. And that partnership has yielded many, many beneficial things, and additional partnerships to what was ever conceived some 15 to 17 years ago when the initial activities were put in place by Joe Johnson, Homer Fisher, and others to make it all work and happen. Things like the Joint Institutes, things like the governor's chairs, things like the Bredesen Center, things like Cherokee Innovation Campus are all just examples of that. And if I digress for a little bit about those examples, I hope you'll bear with me. So if you look at these joint institutes, the campus at Oak Ridge is transformed over the time frame largely by the construction efforts that went on around these joint institutes and the investments the state made, as well as the federal government, in the partnership that we developed 14 or 15 years ago. And in that way, it's also not only something you'd want to kill for if you're me, but it's been very beneficial because these buildings have then housed these incredible programs that allowed us to have advantage in many, many ways with our University of Tennessee system. So if you look at it, there's the Joint Institute for Neutron Sciences. It's owned by UT on land deeded from DOE and funded by the state. The Joint Institute for Biological Sciences, the Joint Institute for Computational Sciences, the Joint Institute for Advanced Materials, which was the first building on our Cherokee Innovation campus to be built on the bend in the river that once was a dairy farm and now is an innovation campus. And I did take a little grief for moving those cows when I was Chancellor for Agriculture. There were people who didn't want us to move them. And then the Joint Institute for Heavy Ion Research. So we're advancing science and engaging more partners and expanding through those enterprises of these joint institutes, and having one on our campus as well as out at the campus at Oak Ridge is a powerful example of how the partnership should work. If you know about the Governor's Chair program, it's a program that was initiated in 2006 by a state investment of $20 million. And this was to bring the brightest and best scientists to bear that could work collaboratively at both the lab as well as at UT. It's funded jointly by the state of Tennessee, the university, and Oak Ridge National Lab, and these are joint faculty appointments at both the university as well as at the lab. It was established to recruit top faculty to UT Science and Technology, as I mentioned before, the world's best. I mean, these are National Academy Science members. We hope for a Nobel laureate eventually out of these 16 individuals. Has had a big impact on our research program at both the lab as well as at the university. And the enterprise of research and higher education is no longer a lone wolf enterprise. And so if you're able to bring in these top level scientists, there are a lot of people that want to join the team. And so you can build on your strength more quickly. You can bring in large groups of people, and big research groups are the wave of the future from the standpoint of answering the most difficult problems and issues in science and engineering and mathematics and computational sciences. The impact on our funding stream has been positive from the standpoint of external grant support. In 2012 alone, we had 9 governor's chairs that brought in $50 million in research grants. And the enhancement of the reputation of the institution as well as the lab has gone up because of these governor's chairs. To give you a flavor for those individuals, I'll talk about 3 of them. And they span the campuses within our system. For example, the first one is Robert Davis. Dr. Robert Davis, he's a governor's chair in biomedical informatics at UT Health Science Center in Memphis. He's a professor in the Department of Pediatrics, and he uses vast data sets to measure impact of therapies on human health. He came to UTHSC from Kaiser Permanente, Georgia, where he was the director of the Center of Health Research Southeast. And what attracted him was the ability to have high-performance computing that's possible through the Joint Institute for Computational Sciences and have access to some of the world's fastest computational capability for these great big data sets that he needs to see how to keep us even healthier in the future. Another one's Dr. Howard Hall. He's a governor's chair in global nuclear security at UT Knoxville. He's an expert in detecting and controlling illicit radioactive materials and in responding to and recovering from nuclear incidents. Before UT, he was at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. Dr. Yilu Liu is a governor's chair for power electronics at UT Knoxville. She's an expert in smart grid technologies and electrical power production and distribution. She's co-director of a consortium of academia, industry, and national labs called Current that is funded through a 5-year grant in the Department of Energy. So what's next for the Governor's Chair program? Well, we have all the seats full, and that's good. But need to figure out ways to get more of them in our future. It benefits both institutions, the lab as well as the university. And I'd also add, when you talk about faculty appointments, that we now have over 100, nearly 125 jointly appointed faculty between the lab and the university. Chancellor Cheek has done a wonderful job of solidifying the relationship with the lab, particularly looking at how to develop these joint academic research enterprises. And when he came on board, I think there were maybe 25 or 30, and he's quickly moved way over 100, 125 or thereabouts. That allows those bigger teams to be created. It allows grants to be garnered and be successfully competed for to do the work of discovery that we wouldn't be able to compete for otherwise. It brings to bear the resources of the lab from the standpoint of the facilities and laboratories and other things you need to do big science, as well as those at the university. So it's a great partnership. The other one is the Bredesen Center from the standpoint of a partnership to educate. You know, the University of Tennessee does three things essentially. We educate, we discover, and we connect across the state. So if you think about the educational impact of a partnership with the lab, the Bredesen Center for Interdisciplinary Research and Graduate Education is a key example. We actually had the first 2 graduates from that PhD program happen last month. The center was approved in 2010 by the General Assembly, and the first class enrolled in 2011. It focused on energy and engineering, collaborative research between UT and ORNL, and having been a faculty member and taught veterinary students, not engineers and not physicists, but veterinary students, I can tell you that the ability to demonstrate to a student the application of the discipline from the classroom in a real-world setting like at the lab is very, very powerful. And it sends home the message that you need to get with it and really learn your physics or your molecular biology in order to be most successful in your discipline from an experience like that often, or it excites you and drives you forward in ways you've never experienced before. And so we have the very finest students in the nation coming to us to be in the Bredesen Center and have this experience. I mean, these students are coming from places like Cal Berkeley, like from the University of Wisconsin, from places like the University of Michigan, great institutions with great credentials academically, because the differentiating reason they pick us is because they're able to have this experience out at the national lab. So we're maximizing that as much as we can. We have 100 students enrolled coming this August, so we've grown the program. We're just about at capacity. And then we have another program and a partnership in the Oak Ridge area with Y12 that's similar to this in educating students across all disciplines that interact with that enterprise as well. Now, I'm going to digress, a little bit from this partnership theory in the Tennessee Valley Coalition about it and the corridor, to talk a little bit about the state of higher education here in Tennessee. And I said that we educate, we discover, and we connect. In our strategies, the first one is we enhance educational excellence. So that means that we ask our students to be ready to go to work. We want them job ready, as I said earlier. And actually, the conversation earlier today about entrepreneurism, we have a center at UT Knoxville called the Anderson Center for Entrepreneurism. And it's focused right at trying to drive this culture towards students about being entrepreneurial. And they do it through advising, they do it through mentoring, they do it through academic programs, as well as real-world experiences and competitions around entrepreneurial activities. If you look at our discovery program, we're in the business of providing solutions that improve life. And so we're always looking to solve problems. And we're looking for the application of our science to the real world. In my experience, I know it's post-lunch, but I'll tell you about it anyway. I studied parasites of animals. So it was worms and fleas and things like that. And nothing gave me more satisfaction than to get a call or to be at a meeting with a bunch of cattlemen or dog owners, and somebody asked a question about an animal they had in a parasitic infection and how to treat it, than to be able to say, you know, I just did a study and I finished it 2 weeks ago, and I know if you do this, that dog will get better. That's proof of principle fulfilled of the land-grant mission that we all hold. So while we have elegant scientists doing PCRs and taking a look at protein structures, they have to have their eye on the ball of developing a solution to somebody's problem that hopefully someday has real-world application to the point where it ends up in a business and it ends up driving economic development for our state and the region and the nation. And better yet, solves people's important problems. The other thing about our land-grant mission that makes us unique is we're mandated by the acts that created us in the 1860s to be listening to the people about what you need fixed. So we have a system across our state, housed in every county, that takes the concerns of the people and the citizens about solving a problem back to our institutions and says, can you figure this out? So that same analogy, if I heard the same question over and over again about a parasitic infection, I didn't have an answer from a trial I had just done, then I was going back to the University of Illinois in those days, a long time ago when I still had a dark black beard and a little bit more hair on my head, and trying to figure out how to solve that problem. So I want you to know that this institution is very, very committed, that being the University of Tennessee, to that land-grant mission and getting you the answers you need in Tennessee as well as throughout the corridor that you need. And it's heartening to be in higher education, but it's also challenging. The partnerships become more and more important all the time because of resource issues. And our state's been in a tough spot this past year where revenues have not exceeded expectations, and so we're in a position where the funding streams become more challenging for higher education. Yet, the governor's drive to 55 to have 55% of the population with post-secondary credentials by the year 2025 is a very, very admirable goal, and we're all behind it. Because we know for Tennessee, if you want to have the right workforce to serve you and your industries and businesses, that's the kind of predictions out of our Center for Business and Economic Research at Knoxville that we need in order to have the right people around to be most vibrant as an economic community and as a society. And we look to expand our relationships with private industry all the time because we see that as a real positive, and it's good for us. And a good example of that is our Cherokee Farm Innovation Campus, in which the concept is to have a research park that's a system-wide resource that allows companies to come in and co-locate with the university and have research activities that are joint between the various units of the university, the various colleges, and whatever industry might come along. So you might have a chemical company that comes in and wants to house space on be housed in space on Cherokee Farm campus that wants to work with the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences and with the chemists there, or the chemical engineers, for example. We also see that as an interesting place for students to gain experience as well about real-world aspects of their discipline. The Tennessee Promise, which emerged this past session from the standpoint of higher education, we are very supportive of it as well. It provides a guarantee of a community college experience and education at no cost, starting in the fall of 2015. We think it'll be positive for the state from the standpoint of the college going rate, because we don't have the kind of going rate we should, and we need to increase that. If you want to be successful in the drive to 55, it's not just being more efficient and having our graduation rates improve and producing more graduates per year, but we also have a pipeline issue because we don't have enough Tennesseans or people in Tennessee attending university. So the community college approach, particularly for the four-year institutions, we're interested in those that jump on pathways, which I understand is about a third of the students currently, so they can come to our programs at upper division and complete that engineering degree without leaving home to get their basic training, or to complete that history degree or whatever it might be that they have as a goal. So we really need more college graduates to be better prepared in Tennessee and throughout the corridor, and we see the promise as a very, very good thing. So in closing, I would tell you that we're very excited about the partnerships that we have. We've had a good ride thus far. The first 4 years I've had the privilege of serving this capacity. It's really an honor to have the job. There are very few days that I go home beat up, believe it or not. It's a great job. Every now and then when I do, you know, we have an old cabin down in North Georgia in some cattle country. I say to my wife, Deb, after a tough one, it doesn't happen very often, you know, Shug, maybe I should just go to North Georgia and run a few cows. And she tells me, you know, you'll be fine in the morning, eat dinner, you'll be right back at it. Thanks very much. I appreciate your time, and it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. DiPietro, and from a guy that does get beat up just about every day, I too am glad and privileged to have this job. Thank you very much, and Dr. DiPietro, I also want to thank you. You and I have sat up at the box at UTK in Knoxville, watched a lot of football games. I'm a big Orange guy, you know that, but you have told me, and I have asked you to support this great institution here at UTC, and you have fulfilled that, and it's my honor to serve with you to make sure that UTC is a great part of the UT system. Thank you.